everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Belinda. If you are new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button and share this video with anyone who you think might benefit from it. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. Thanks for being part of the AGD fam. Today's video is an addition to the ACCA playlist. My most recent video covered what next after exams and was focused on the ethics and professional skills module. Today's video is focused on practical experience requirements that you need to prove to ACCA to be able to be a fully qualified ACCA member. So if you finished your exams in the September session, huge congrats to you. If you're still studying, pursuing your exams, you're still on your journey, still stay tuned, because gathering your practical experience is part and parcel of you becoming qualified and shouldn't be done just when you're finished with exams. It's something I believe should be done concurrently, so that once you're done, you're able to get your stuff signed off and you're able to become qualified as soon as possible. So definitely stay tuned. I'll walk you through what you can expect, what route I took, because there's not just one way to get your practical experience validated. There are different routes, and I'll let you know which one I took. I'll also show you the form that I filled in when I was going through. So I might as well reveal now. I went through the exemption route. So I'll show you the form that I filled in, walk you through the different performance objectives that are available that you need to make sure that you get relevant experience in. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions, because I'm more than happy to do a Q&A. As part of my playlist, you've seen the many other Q&As I've done, thanks to your engagement. So definitely get started in those comments. Let me know what it is, how it's been for you, what questions you have, and yeah, we can get cracking. So there are two routes to getting ACCA qualified in terms of your practical experience. So you can either record your time. So this is the most popular option because it's the most available to everyone, where you record your time on your My ACCA portal. So when you go on My ACCA, anyone who is a student, whether you're going through a vendor, self-study, whatever route you're taking, whatever tutorial option you've taken, you should have a My ACCA account set up, because this is a self-service portal that ACCA has made available to us. On there, you can track your progress, so you're able to see how many more exams are remaining. You're able to even book exams yourself at different exam centers. But then also, that's where you would be able to launch your ethics and professional skills module. And what's the focus of this video? Be able to log your time when it comes to experience in a relevant role. Whether you take the exemption route or whether you take the recording time route, you still need to set up your profile on My Experience on the My ACCA website. I wish I could show you, but I logged into My ACCA right before this video and realized, actually, since I became a qualified member, I don't have access to the different student things that I used to have access to when I was still an ACCA student. For those of you who this is the first video that you're watching, I have recorded my whole ACCA journey. So there's something for you definitely on there. If you're in your ACCA journey, there's definitely something for you. So definitely check it out. I'll link it somewhere here or here as you watch this video, so you can check it out. Also, just to explain the two options, regardless of the option that you take, whether you're logging your time individually, like against each objective, or you go through the exemption route, you need 36 months work experience in a relevant role. So it can be in accounting, in finance, and honestly, don't get caught up in the title of your role. It's more about what you do day to day and whether it's able to demonstrate the different objectives. And also, you need a practical experience supervisor who is going to sign off. So depending on if it's exemption route, they'll sign off the form. If it's the logging time route, all they'll do, you will set up. So you need to set them up on the My ACCA My Experience portal. You'll need to set them up as your supervisor. And what happens every time you log your experience, they can validate it. So they get the option. So everything is managed online. There's no paperwork. I think before, my parents used to tell me they used to write on, like, they had an experience book that you'd write and then you'd go and take it to be signed off. No, there's no paperwork. It's actually all online. But yeah, so you need to set up your profile. You need a practical experience supervisor. Who is a practical experience supervisor? This is someone who works closely with you, someone who can sign up, ideally your line manager. Your line manager should also be a qualified accountant, but if they're not, they can still sign off your experience. In my case, my line manager was not qualified because I was in technology risk consulting. So in my team, there was no mandatory requirement for people to be qualified accountants, but they still got to sign off my work. What I needed to do in addition is nominate a second person who is a qualified accountant in the organization. Now, this person didn't have to work closely with me, but they needed to work with my line manager to understand what it is I've done, etc., to be able to be comfortable to sign off against. So you still need a qualified accountant signature. It's just that your line manager is the most, so ACCA does recognize it needs to be someone who knows what you're doing. So they will accept the signature, but it needs to be countersigned by a qualified accountant. All right, now that we have that out of the way, I will show you where you can get more information on the ACCA website and use that to guide the conversation. Let me just share my screen. So what I did to get this page, I literally just Googled ACCA Practical Experience Requirements, and normally the ACCA website is usually the first link that comes up. Now, as I've mentioned, you need 36 months of supervised experience in a relevant role. And what I hadn't mentioned is the performance objectives, how many you need. So you need 5 essential. So these are mandatory regardless of whatever specialization you're going to go into. And you need 4 technical objectives. So the 4 technical objectives are the ones you choose out of 17. So there are 17 technical objectives you can choose from. I would suggest you align this with the area of specialization you want to go into. So when you're doing your strategic professional papers, you usually choose 2 options papers. So you have 2 mandatory and then 2 options. The options that you choose, ideally you want to align everything towards the path, the career path that you want. So your options papers should also, when you're choosing them, consider the technical objectives, but then also be practical. In your role, discuss with your practical experience supervisor, what is it that's feasible for me in my role, that's easily achievable through your role, because at the end of the day, you also don't want to stall your qualification for too long just because you're trying to find the perfect opportunity to do this specific technical objective. So there is no requirement from ACCA that your options papers and your technical objectives need to go hand in hand, but it would be advisable for you to do that. All right, so as you can see, 36 months experience, your performance objectives, you need practical experience supervisors, you record your experience on my experience tab on the My ACCA portal. Approved employers, I'm going to get to that because that's for people who are going through the exemption route like I did. I'll just cover the objectives briefly. So you just confirm that you can see that, yes. So there's this performance objective booklet that I encourage you to download, because what it is, it shows you the guidelines against each objective. So when I show you the form, you'll see that just from the name of the objective, you can't really know what is it that I need to achieve. You can maybe just try and make out, but in terms of the specific elements of that objective that you need to demonstrate or at least have exposure to, this performance objective booklet really helped me because, for example, one of the goals is ethics and professionalism. That's very open to interpretation, right? But when you go to the performance objective booklet, it has specific things that ACCA considers important against that objective. And you'd be very surprised. You don't need to go to the moon and back to prove that objective. They're very small things, like even doing compliance training that's mandatory at your firm, because most accounting firms, most audit firms, they usually have some sort of independence and ethics and compliance training that you need to do. So showing that you've kept that up to date, showing that you've not received any quality observations on your projects, things like that are easy ways you can prove. Doing even learning, showing that you're interested in the learning for your organization. So there's simple ways to prove some of these objectives. And then when it gets to the technical objectives is where you need to do at least to show a bit more that you've done something specific that's kind of related to, the studies that you've been doing in accounting, like actual reporting, getting involved in reporting, planning of an audit, etc. Okay, so I will go back to this other page, to the approved employer page. So I took the exemption route. The key difference between exemption route and having to record each experience that you've had against the objectives is just the amount of hassle involved. So when you go through the exemption route, all they need, because they've already assessed, actually I might as well click on this and talk through that with you. So for you to go through the exemption route, you need to work with an approved employer, an ACCA approved employer. And who are these? These are employers who ACCA has assessed their trainee development program. And I was one part of the Big Four. I still work for a Big Four, but the one I qualified with is a different one. And they've already, as part of the graduate scheme, they've already assessed the grad scheme or the different trainee schemes at the farms, and they are comfortable that through that scheme you have gotten the right exposure that you need to be a qualified accountant. So if you want to know whether your employer is part of the approved employers, and not just any approval, it needs to be gold or platinum approval. You can come here to the approved employer directory to search for them. And that's not the only thing. You need, once you've confirmed that your employer is part of the approved employers list and it's gold or platinum level, you need to reach out to the, like in my firm, I reached out to the professional qualifications team just to ask for approval to go through the exemption route. So just because they're an approved employer doesn't mean that automatically they will allow you to go through, claim the exemption route. It's not obvious, so you need to reach out to them because there's some details they need to give you for you to be able to complete the form appropriately. All right, I will now shift to the form itself. So this is the form that I filled in when I was going through the exemption route. It will still be beneficial for you if you're going to log your time because I'll be able to show you the different objectives, etc. So it's a very simple form, honestly, very straightforward. And this is why the exemption route is much shorter, because if you're recording your time against each objective, you're going to have to record how long you were in that role, what it is that you did, and then your practical experience supervisor needs to sign off against each. So it's a lot more hassle, but the end goal is still you have the right amount of work experience. That's the end goal. It's just how you record it that's different. So you just put in your personal details and how long you've been working at that employer. This is the same details that you put in the MyACCA website. It's just on the form because they will review the form independently. That's why you put them in again. And then in terms of the practical experience supervisor, as long as they are a qualified accountant, you only need one, but mine wasn't. So the qualifications bit was blank because the qualification that's relevant for this form is if it's an accounting qualification. So my second nominated supervisor is the one so one of these has to be qualified, bottom line. And then here is where the key difference between exemption route and the other one is, if it's exemption route, you just need your practical experience supervisor to sign off once they're comfortable you have achieved. So it's up to you to prove to them that you have achieved. How is down to ACCA doesn't need to know the background. That's the difference. They already have their own level of comfort. So you just need your line manager to be comfortable that you have achieved the objective. How I did with mine, I had a progress tracker that I started filling in with them from not from the get-go. I would be lying to you if I've been on this throughout. It's when I was about to finish my exams, I realized, oh, actually I need to sign off my objectives. So all I needed to do, I had like a separate spreadsheet tracker with them where I told them against performance objective 1, this is how I believe I've achieved it. And because they're my line manager and they've been through all my appraisals, they've seen all the evidence from the different projects, engagement managers, then they are comfortable. It's not someone who you're having to explain everything from scratch. So how you track and how you make them comfortable that you have done it is not up to ACCA's discretion. That's up to you. That's the difference. But when it's recording time, you need to prove to ACCA as well. So you record it all. Everything has to be transparent. But for this other one, it's like they already have that level pre-authorized type of thing. So I would encourage you when you're doing your performance when you're doing setting your goals at the beginning of the year with your line manager, that you consider your ACCA performance objectives, because when you involve them in this, when you get them to guide you in terms of which performance objectives you want to do, then it won't be a surprise when you're asking for opportunities to demonstrate them. So for example, for me, because I was in consulting, risk consulting, some of these like audits, be able to plan an audit, the audit and assurance process, it was not obvious that all my engagements will have this element. So some of my engagements were assurance engagements, which aligned perfectly with this, but some of mine, depending on the one I'm placed in, were completely advisory, completely different. So you do need to be very intentional about what roles you pick up at your job, what type of tasks you pick up. So it's ideal that at the beginning of the year, when you're setting your goals, that you align them with your ACCA performance objectives, so that whenever you're pushing to get exposure to something, it's not something out of the blues. It's something your manager is part and parcel of that conversation. And in fact, they're encouraging you or even speaking on your behalf, to different, I guess, the different stakeholders at your organization. If you need to do as a comment, if you need to do that, they're the ones, pitching for you to be able to do it. And yeah, simple. They just signed against here. And because for me, my line manager was not a qualified accountant, the second person came and signed at the bottom, gave the overall signature. And that person was a partner at my previous firm. And that's it. Let me know if you have any questions. The practical experience requirement, honestly, is all about just being on it from the get-go. Don't wait till you finish your exams to do it. Just be on it throughout. And don't be too bothered about, oh, my role doesn't sound like it's an accounting or finance. No, it's more about the exposure that you have, and as long as you're able to prove it. Wishing you all the best. Let me know if you have any questions. Like, share this video, and yeah, I'll see you on my next one. Bye.